In 2017, in Germany, the German government opened its entire university system to anyone in the world who wants to study in Germany. And of course, at the university level, courses are offered in English or German. English is generally taught as a second language in Germany, and it's cost less, cost nothing, free. In other words, you have to provide for your room and board. Although I think some arrangements have been made recently in that regard. I say this because this is much the same throughout Europe. For instance, with regard to education, all education is, it's not free, it's paid for by the taxpayer. Because in Europe, they seem to understand that, a nation is a community of people. I'll give you another example of how education is treated differently. In Finland, for example, the study of art is considered as much something that you enjoy, but also as a career. So you can graduate from college, and if you want to be an artist, the government will stipend you with the equivalent of $2,000 a month. You create art, and of course, whatever you sell belongs to you. But the idea is to broaden the intellectual horizons of the public and not have everyone become a worker drone, working to make someone else rich. Now, I mention all of this because in the United States is actually the only country in the world that actively seeks to thwart the education of its citizens. Firstly, with higher education, it is nothing more than a debt trap. In other words, a person might spend $250,000 on a college education, and of course they're locked into this debt, basically in perpetuity. Now, there's no reason why the United States higher education shouldn't be not free, but the government could pay for it. There's no reason for that. It would cost less, actually, than what we spend on our military adventures. But anyway, and even down to the lowest level of education in this country. Let me just say, first of all, at the elementary level, kindergarten and everything, what the pandemic showed was that education K through 12 is basically babysitting. And what it showed is that these people with these children who were screaming that they didn't want the schools to be closed, that's because they're going insane, because they have to be in the presence of their own children, which certainly indicates they probably should have never had children in the first place. But that aside, people don't want to have their children educated. One reason is because they're not willing to pay for it. Because nobody wants to pay teachers. Oh, we love teachers, but we don't want to pay them any money. The second thing is, in the United States, an educated populace is not in the interest of the establishment class, so to speak. So what we do is we have a volunteer military, which is basically a jobs program for the poor and disenfranchised, who have no other options in life. Whereas in Europe, for instance, even if you don't go to college, there are apprenticeship programs that you can join. The default position for the vast majority of students in Europe is not to join their military. Now, again, I want to just point out, you've recently heard books being banned and all sorts of things in various school systems. Well, the interesting thing about that is that you find that people in, let's just talk about Europe, are young people are far more educated and, in fact, know more about American history than Americans do. So when, Americans travel abroad, they carry this bullshit attitude with them that they are the greatest thing since sliced bread. And when you meet tourists from other countries, if you meet them, because most Americans can't even be bothered to engage with anyone, you will find that the people from other countries do not have this attitude that Americans have. So remember now, we're actively thwarting. We don't want people to learn anything. We want to just give them some basic idiotic, basically myth knowledge about America, yada, yada, yada. It's the greatest country in the world, and everything we do is ordained by God, blah, 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 which is all nonsense and, of course, is not an education. But it does provide for a group of people that will be tremendously obedient to whatever garbage their leaders, so to speak, ram down their throats. So in other countries, this is perhaps you've been following the protests in France. They wanted to raise the retirement age to 2 years, and the entire country was engulfed in flames. In America, they could raise the retirement age to 100, and Americans would simply make an excuse why that's a good thing. Of course, you should be working till you drop dead. There's no reason why anybody needs to stop working. What is that? Stop working. What else are you going to do? Read a book? So, whenever you hear these stories about banning books and complaints about education, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, just remember where this all comes from. It comes from the fact that the establishment class in the United States does not, under any circumstances, want a public smart enough to question why things are the way they are in the United States. Why is there no universal health care? Why is there no universal education? Why is there no universal daycare? And they also don't want you to know, or at least think about the fact that as education increases, birth rates decline. And of course, we see this in Europe, where the level of higher education that women receive, the less likely they're going to want to stay home and spend their time with some screaming monster. So everything in the United States is designed in such a way to keep the public docile, never question anything, never think about anything, never consider an alternate intellectual horizon, and never ask, why are things as shitty as they are in the United States compared to other countries?